Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Geographically? Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good? Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest Small Talks episode where Alan and I sat down and talked all about intentions. Today, we are going to do a Scratching the Surface episode as we talked about fitting in versus standing out. I think now is the best time ever to be able to stand out because there are so many avenues to do that with, but it is also one of the harder times because people can talk crap about you without ever having to see you face to face, and they can judge you and
keyboard tough guys.
Yeah, keyboard warriors, and they can make you feel bad about yourself. But you know, the point of this episode is to make you realize you are unique, but everybody is unique. And I think if you take that uniqueness, wow, what a word, and you own it, and you that's what makes you who you are. So why not double down on that? And why not try to live your life, with that as a positive instead of a negative? I think that's unbelievably important. I know you're going to talk about it, but that's what's rare is what's valuable. And that's the beauty. There is nobody on this earth like you, and I think you should own the shit out of it.
No one on this earth has your fingerprint. No one on this earth has your handwriting. No one on this earth has your voice. No one on this earth has the same experiences as you, the same mind as you, neuroplasticity, functional, chemical, structural. Everything about you is unique. And the way I see it is the more you grow, the more that uniqueness will naturally grow and shine. It's funny because in school growing up as kids, we want to fit in. We want to fit in so badly. I remember feeling weird with trying to get straight A's and all that kind of stuff. And I always was jealous of the athletes like Kevin, who was kick-ass at baseball.
I appreciate that.
And a lot of people in high school really value sports. And he was good at sports, so I would argue that he, got more praise and recognition and significance from that. I always knew, though, that my intelligence and my focus on my brain was going to pay off, and it has in spades, and that's what makes me different. So whatever it is out there about you that makes you unique, let's really own that. And instead of fitting in, let's try to stand out, because whether it's in the marketplace in a business, or whether it's standing out to attract the right mate, or standing out to get mentors, people notice people who are owning their truth. And whatever that is for you, we want to encourage you to really, own that and run with it.
I think that one of the greatest things ever for anybody trying to get better, to grow, to evolve, is to gain confidence. And I think that's one of the reasons why some people struggle to own their truth, to own their uniqueness. Because for a long time, I think I'm a very unique person.
For sure.
But I didn't want to. I don't like being the center of attention, really. I think that's probably inaccurate. In front of the microphone, I'm different than I am in real life. This is my thing. I really. I woke up this morning. I told you I was jazzed.
Right.
I was so happy today to be able to come down here, and we're recording 4 podcast episodes today.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing, but it's amazing. And again, 2 years ago, this was my dream.
Yeah.
This was my dream. So I'm a different person here. I like the center of attention. I like having the microphone on me. I like being the host of this show. But
you didn't always, though.
No. I didn't always. It took me a long time to be
To feel competent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to even like want to say I was a podcaster. For a long time, I was okay with fitting in.
Yeah.
You know, I was okay with like, oh, Kevin's just kind of doing his thing. Like now I want to stand out. I want to be the best in the world at this. I want to coach you guys. I want to help you guys. I want people to look at me and say, wow, he's like, something's different. Like they're doing some different stuff over there. And now I own that, but I also believe in it. And that's the biggest difference. You're not going to want to own your uniqueness if you don't believe in it.
Right.
That's a whole thing. Belief is giant.
So I've been asking Kevin a lot of questions just because I think some really cool things have been uncovered. So what is one way that you in your life have uncovered something that makes you different?
My goodness, that is actually a really good question. Not that you don't always ask good questions. Can you repeat it so I can internalize
So
it?
what's one thing that you've uncovered that makes you different that you now believe in?
I would say my work ethic.
Yeah.
I never really understood how hard of a worker I was because a lot of the times I was doing stuff I didn't like to do. So I'd put in my 8 hours and I would get the hell out of there.
Right.
Now, this is something I used to do, and this separated me from a lot of people, and people would call me a savage or a psycho or crazy or obsessed, whatever it was. I would we would work an 8-hour day. I would drive 5 hours home from New Jersey. I would get to the shop, and then I would drive another half hour to the gym. 1, 2, 3 in the morning. It didn't matter. Like, I go to the gym. That's what I do. Like, I go and I get my shit done. That's what I do.
Right.
But that always stood out. Not necessarily in a negative way.
No, that's huge.
But for a long time, like that was part of my identity. I was the guy at my company who brought his lunch, who was a bodybuilder, who lifted the heavy stuff, who, you know, and my nickname was like Muscles. They used to call me Muscle. So, you know, for me, that's when I realized that like, oh, I guess I am different. I am unique. I do stand out.
One of the interesting things about our own uniqueness is that because we all have what Robert Greene refers to in the book Mastery as a natural inclination. In other words, you've always kind of had that, so you don't even know it's unique.
Yeah.
And you don't even know that it's actually super valuable. So if you're out there right now, there's something about you that is like you've kind of probably taken for granted because it's normal to you that is actually extremely valuable. And if you were to double down on that strength and design a life around it, that would be huge. So like for you, your work ethic, like I remember saying verbatim, as soon as I started working with Kevin, that is my new standard. I don't want to work with people who aren't as hardworking as him. You're so much more hardworking than some of the people that I've worked with in the past, to the point where I literally refuse to go back. Like, because now I know the difference. Like, it's different.
Well, I told you, and we talked about it on the podcast, I used to work really hard. I used to work a lot of hours. I used to do some unrealistic things.
Oh, yeah. Dead birds and attics.
Dead birds,
and spiders.
Yeah,
and,
spiders crawling in pitch black. You know, it was not good. But again, I didn't like it because it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Right.
So it didn't matter. Like, I wouldn't consider myself a hard worker because the second it hit 3 o'clock, I was out of there. I didn't want to work more. I told you today, like when I got here, we might be working all night.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't care. I'm fired up. But I think that I like the point that you said. Like sometimes it becomes so ingrained in you.
Yeah, that you think it's regular.
That you forget
think
about
it's common.
So Alan and I were lucky enough to get interviewed by Anthony Trucks for his podcast, Owner
Right.
Shift. And on that episode, I think I might have mentioned this, but he said, how do you know what you should be bringing to the world?
Right.
And I said, you should bring something to the world that you have experienced that is unique to you. I don't think you can. I think you can teach something you haven't experienced, but I don't think it necessarily can be to the level that. I mean, if you have been on the verge of suicide, if you have been through a divorce, if you have had a son or a daughter with a disability growing up, I think that your level of understanding and compassion and empathy for somebody else, and you have experienced it, so you might know certain things that other people don't.
Right.
So I think your experience is what makes you unique too, not just what you look like, not just the way you speak, not just the way you think. Your life experiences, nobody has ever lived the same life you'll live.
Nope.
And that's what makes you you. Now, are there negatives to that? Sure, yeah.
Well, you have cheat codes that other people don't have.
Well, you also have trauma that other people don't have, and I think that's what people focus on.
And then overcoming those traumas is where you get the cheat codes, so to speak.
Yes.
So, like, a lot of times I say, don't be a tour guide In other words, don't tell people to go places that you haven't been. Like, how dare I coach you in fitness on the pillars, sleep, hydration, nutrition, training, and mobility if I don't do them?
How's that mobility going?
Oh, I know, right?
Burned
You
him.
would call me out.
Burned him.
Now I'm more likely to follow through. But seriously, like, if I'm not living through these things, how can I help you do them? And so it's like if I were to go to an island and explore it for years, and then Kevin first got to the island, I can tell him where the good food is. I can tell him where the fresh water is. Like, whereas other people are not able to do that because they haven't explored the island. So you have your own sort of unique island, your own unique skill set of things that you've been through. And it's like, I'll use a Jim Carrey quote here. He says, "How will you serve the world?" What unique talents do you have that they need? That's all you have to figure out. And that's really what this episode is, figuring out what about you is unique. So what about you? What else about you is unique?
What else about, dude? You and I have argued about this. I don't think you can ever have the biggest heart when it comes to me versus you, and that's not cocky, or that's just something I genuinely believe. My heart is big. I have a lot of empathy for people. I go out of my way to help people, and it's always been that way.
Right.
So for me, it's normal, and I love it.
And you've developed that habit and that skill
Yeah.
that other people might not have at the same level.
And now I have Y power.
Right.
So it's a win-win-win. I was going to say this. Imagine, and if you're listening to this, picture this, okay? Have you ever been in a room, maybe it's a speech, maybe it's in a classroom, maybe it's at a seminar, wherever it is, and whoever was on stage or whoever was speaking said, "If you do this, raise your hand." And you do it, but you didn't raise your hand. Why didn't you raise your hand? Because you were more focused on fitting in than you were standing out. Because you were afraid you were going to stand out maybe in a negative way. I know that when we were at Brendan Burchard's event, every time he would say something, and I would think to myself, "Oh, shit, how many people are going to raise their hand here? I don't want to be the only one."
Oh, interesting.
That's fitting in versus standing out.
wow.
And guess what? Who cares if you're the only person that raises your hand?
Right.
It's not a big deal. It's one
Wow.
exercise.
That's a good
Analogies.
analogy.
Analogies
It's a
are-
good barometer of whether
analogies
or
are
not you're
life.
trying to fit in. Because here's the thing: we don't admit to ourselves, "Oh, I'm trying to fit in," but we kind of still are, and that's natural, by the way. I mean, again, from an evolutionary standpoint, we used to have tribes of 150 people, and if you didn't fit in with the tribe, you would get ostracized and you could die. You don't have other people to help you get food, hunt, gather, shelter. So it's ingrained in us. So if you're out there and you've been trying to fit in, and you were afraid to raise your hand, like Kevin said, that's not unique to you. That's a human condition. And the only way to really own what's uniquely you and then serve the world with it is to kind of overcome that fear of being ostracized.
Fear is everything. I have a question. Do you think that there is any upside of fitting in? Any scenario where you fitting in would actually help you?
On the micro level, yeah.
Okay.
So
go into that.
I think that trying to fit in is oftentimes a micro win for a macro loss. In other words,
Let's turn the tables on them.
okay, so there's two different needs that we are all trying to meet simultaneously, and it's the dance between these two notes that makes life. Number one, you want to be significant, which requires uniqueness. That is my number one driver, without a doubt. Out of the 6 human needs Tony Robbins talks about, certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution, significance, mastery, status has been my number one, okay? For most people, a lot of people, I shouldn't say most, although I do think it is most, it's connection and love is number one. So if you want to be connected and in love with someone, whether it's friends, family, or intimately, you have to be similar. You have to have common ground. If you want to be significant, you have to be different.
Interesting. Can you balance the two?
Yes, absolutely, and that's life. The question is, are you doing it consciously, hyper-consciously?
Shambles plug.
And so you have to choose where you're different. Own that completely. I'll tell you what I had to tell one of my clients. Sometimes you have to choose between being respected and being liked.
Painful. That's a painful one.
Because when you own your uniqueness and you say no, which is the hardest thing, to, let's say, okay, alcohol is common.
Oh, yeah.
Very common.
Yep.
Okay? A very high percentage of Americans drink alcohol regularly. I have had to decide to cut away from that part of my life. Why? Because I want to be the greatest natural aesthetic men's physique athlete on the planet. Alcohol is no longer an option for me. That doesn't mean I judge people who drink. Maybe they don't want what I want. If they wanted to be the greatest fitness athlete, then of course they would probably have to give up alcohol too. Not to mention they don't have that vice, that addiction that I once, had. So I have to choose to be different often. When my friends that I used to party with have a party and they think to themselves, I want to have fun, I'm not exactly the first person that comes to mind anymore, whereas I used to be. I have decided, when it comes to alcohol specifically, I would rather be different and take the path less traveled for these greater reasons. And that means that I have to give up some of the more pleasurable connection and love parts that I used to enjoy.
I am going to disagree with you.
Okay.
Because for a long time, I was trying to fit in with people that maybe didn't have big dreams, big goals, big aspirations. But when I started living this life and I started getting into personal development, I was trying to fit in with those people. I was trying to fit in. Now, this is my argument.
Interesting.
I think you have to, maybe, not in every case,
right,
but I think in some cases, in order to build comfort, you might have to fit in before you're willing to make a change and then stand up.
Interesting.
Yeah. You would hang out with other musical artists and then realize, okay, I know what musical artists do. I know their habits. I know how to make this music. Now it's time for me to be unique. Now it's time for me to bring my thoughts, my sound, my difference to the world.
Let's go deeper on that.
Sure.
So, in terms of the specific influences in your life, so you have to pick and choose based on what you want, the outcomes you want in your life.
I think you can fit in if it's not what you want and you fit in, you're going to get lost.
Exactly.
If it's something you want, I think you should fit in long enough to realize, Am I better than these people? Like, do I have a higher upside? Do I maybe have, more? What's the word I'm looking for?
Why power?
No, your biggest
Standards?
No, your biggest pain is when people potential.
Oh, okay.
Do I have more potential as a podcaster than the people I'm hanging out with? Guess what? It's time for me to really own my uniqueness and be funny, or speak eloquently on the mic, or deliver messages this way, or. I think that's it. Because how are you going to own your uniqueness if you don't believe in it yet? I think
you
that's
wouldn't.
Right. I think that's one way to believe in it.
And how do you believe in it if you're not aware of it?
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Yeah, chicken or egg.
We need to figure out, the listeners and us, kind of our long-term potential is predicated on our own awareness of our own gifts.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
I genuinely think that I have a gift for knowledge. I think my mind is super powerful. Like, I'm so blessed. Like, I remember, a quick story, I was snowboarding and I wasn't wearing a helmet, and I woke up on the mountain thinking I was in bed, and someone was like, dude, are you okay? I went up on a rail, and I don't remember what happened.
You jeffed it.
Pretty sure I got a concussion. After that, I never not wore a helmet again, snowboarding. And for me, that was a huge wake-up call of, oh my God, like, what if I lost my mind? That's my favorite part of me is my ability to. A lot of people say, oh my God, you remember all these quotes, like you can recite, the entire Harry Potter movies, like all this stuff. And apparently that's something that's not normal.
Oh, for sure.
But it's always been kind of normal for me. So that's something that I took for granted for a long time. So if you're out there right now, whatever your gifts are, your natural inclinations, your natural talents, most likely there's something that you think is more common than it is.
How many times, and this is an interesting thing, and I don't know exactly how to explain this without maybe sounding ignorant, but I don't mean it in that way. That's not my intention. My intention is not to sound ignorant. I'm going to try to communicate that properly. But have you ever seen like a model, a beautiful model, but has like the skin pigmentation? Have you ever seen that?
Mm-mm.
So it would be like an African-American model. I don't know her name. I wish I knew her name. But she has like skin pigmentation where she has like white spots.
No, I've never seen it, but I can picture it.
She's an internationally published model.
Okay.
How many people growing up would say, like, I am so much different than anybody else, I could never be in a magazine, or I could never be a model?
Right.
Her uniqueness is her gift. It's what makes her stand out.
I know.
And I firmly believe that, like, no matter how unique you are, no matter how much you actually stand out, you're going to get far more love than you would if you just fit in.
Mm.
Like, if you want something great, you have to take a chance. And you're gonna get judged no matter what. You really are.
Well, I always talk about the remarkable.
Yeah.
In order to do something remarkable, I always say there's two things that every person who ever achieved their dreams has in common. And by the way, achieving your dreams in a way is highlighting your uniqueness. In order to achieve your dreams and do something noteworthy, remarkable, you're going to have to own whatever it is unique to you and chase it as if your life depends on it. So if you want to do something remarkable, you have to expect that it will be remarked upon by definition. And if it's being remarked upon by 100 people in a room, how many of those remarks are going to be negative? Because a lot of people tend to be negative. It's automatic. There's two things that everyone who ever achieved their dreams have in common. Number one, they got laughed at. No matter what. Read all the books, biographies, autobiographies, they always got laughed at. Number two, they did it anyway.
Powerful. So we're coming up on it.
We are.
Do you want to do your dramatic reading?
Okay.
I think that's also head over to hyperconsciouspodcast.com and click join Hyperconscious Nation, and you will get not one, not two, but 3 Hyperconscious Morning Minutes, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Guys, if you were into cars, you would want to get updates on the newest cars. If you're into football, you're probably signed up to some sort of fantasy football alerts. If you are trying to get better as a human being, that's what we are trying to do for you, and we are going to send those emails right to your inbox so we can help you get better.
Folks, we need to be reminded a lot of times more than we need to be taught. We're learning every day and we're growing every day, but Kevin and I mentioned earlier today, we need to be reminded of the fundamentals over and over and over again. They're going to keep us on track. That's what those morning minutes will do for us and for you.
Yes.
So here's the dramatic reading.
Dramatic reading time.
Also, I want to thank Kevin for doing my job for me.
Yes. Well, somebody's got to do it. I don't know, man. Sometimes I wonder, guys, I'm not allowed to have a sick day, because if I was to have a sick day, this thing would go right off the rails.
Right off the mountain.
You wouldn't hear from us,
so to speak. Okay, so here's the dramatic reading. This is from one of my favorite books ever of all time, which Kevin just recently read.
I did.
John C. Maxwell, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth.
Fire book.
Go. Thank you. As if I read
Right,
it.
right.
I recommended it to Kevin, so
Yes.
I'm taking
Yes.
credit for that. Okay, the truth about trade-offs. And by the way, this is about the trade-off between significance and love and connection. And sometimes, like Kevin mentioned, you can have both, but sometimes you need to prioritize depending on the arena. Okay, here we go. The truth about trade-offs. Life has many intersections, opportunities to go up or down. At these intersections, we make choices. We can add something to our life, subtract from it, or exchange something we have for something we don't. The most successful people know when to do which of those 3. This is kind of what Kevin was articulating. Here are some insights that I hope will help you to understand trade-offs, spot them, and use them to your advantage. And remember, to your advantage is predicated on knowing your outcome, your intention. If you don't know your intentions, go back to that episode that we just recorded.
Shameless plug.
Oh, yeah. Trade-offs are available to us throughout life. I first learned the law of trade-offs when I was in elementary school, though I didn't call it that at the time. Back then, I loved to play marbles. Some days we would play marbles all during lunch and recess. It was a lot of fun trying to beat friends and win their best marbles. A friend of mine had a big, beautiful cat's eye marble that I wanted very badly, but he wouldn't play with it, so I never got a chance to win it. He just held on to it and showed it to us, so I developed a strategy. I offered to trade for it. First, I offered any marble I had for it. He wasn't interested. Then I offered 2 for it, then 3, then 4. I think he was finally willing to make the trade when I reached 7. He was happy because he had 7 marbles. I was happy because I'd given up several average marbles for 1 beautiful marble. Everybody makes trade-offs throughout life. Whether they know it or not, the question is whether you are going to make good ones or bad ones, which again is predicated on your own dreams and goals. In general, I believe that there are 3 possibilities. Unsuccessful people make bad trade-offs. Average people make few trade-offs, not often, certainly not consciously. And then the third one, successful people successful people make good trade-offs. Folks, I want to end this episode with one of my favorite quotes. I have several of them. Mark Twain. Kevin's laughing at me. Is it because of people?
Nah, man.
Okay, word.
It's other things.
It's other things. Okay, sounds good.
I'm in a great mood.
Inside jokes. In my fitness coach's Instagram bio, it says the following quote by Mark Twain. Anytime you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. I was telling Kevin earlier, the most common restaurant in the world is McDonald's. Think about common as average. Think about average as normal. Do you want to live a normal, average, mediocre, moderate life, or do you want to do something exceptional with your life obviously, if you're listening to us on this podcast, it's the latter.
Guys, I've explained several times about the fact that I was afraid to stand out in the Fire Academy, and I was more focused on fitting in and not raising my hand and asking questions, and how that altered the outcome of my life. I'm happy with the way it altered my life, but are you doing the same thing, and will you be happy about it in the future? That's the thing. Reverse engineer regret. That's something that we always talk about. And, you know, I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, and you have to ask yourself this, and you have to really, really think about it, but am I going to be on my deathbed and I'm going to look back and say, you know, oh my God, I can't believe how bad it hurt me that one time I raised my hand and I was the only one? Or are you going to say, I really, really wish I had the courage to stand out, be unique, and really, really do what lit me up in life? One life, guys. That's it.
That was, I have so many stories of coming up of my past when I rose my hand and I got laughed at. Folks, what makes you different is your greatest strength, hands down. That doesn't mean you can't have common core values and common ground with other people, but what makes you different is the uniqueness that you can bring to the world. And I hope that you decide in advance, like Kevin and I have, to really let that shine.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. Up next, we have a very special episode with a guest. His name is Jeff Fenster. He is the CEO and creator of Everbowl. It is a superfoods chain. I think they have 22 now?
26.
26 now.
Oh, yeah.
All over the West Coast, California, Arizona. I think they're moving across the country. But we picked his brain, and it was interesting because at the beginning I thought it was going to be a lot about business, but Jeff has a next level mindset.
Oh, yeah.
He's all about making friends and having good time along the way. Like, he's not just about making money. He's all about the experience. He's very focused on hiring people who are good, happy people, and his thing's all about the experience. So, next level episode. And Dave Meltzer recommended him to us.
Yes, he did. He's known Dave Meltzer, so Dave recommended Jeff to us. Jeff knew Dave since Dave was 14. I think Jeff was even younger than that. So he's been learning from mentors his whole life. Again, that episode I had, I believe, 4 pages of notes. Again, he's all about having fun and enjoying food, and his business philosophy and life philosophy it's different,
yeah.
but it's good different.
Yeah.
Speaking of uniqueness,
yeah.
He's definitely all about standing out.
He said the biggest difference, or what did he say? We do things that other people don't.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's the most unique. That's standing out in the best way.
Fresh eyes. He said coming into a new industry with fresh eyes and good ideas.
No, it was a word like, I can't think of it.
Right.
I probably didn't write it down because I'm the worst. And also...
Right. 5-minute clinic.
Yes. So if you heard on Wednesday, we have a new episode series dropping.
Oh, yeah.
Which will be going, you're listening to this on Friday or thereafter, it will be Monday. So we are going to do it's going to be called the 5-minute clinic. We are going to take a valuable lesson that Alan and I have both learned. It has changed our life. It's something that we live fundamentally by, and we're going to share it with you because, again, it's the small things that make the big things. It's the small habits that form the big habits, and the habits are what determine where we end up in life. And the first one we do is going to be on why power, because why power is everything.
It's the most fundamental thing that you need, why power. Don't miss that episode. And again, folks, what makes you unique is the gift you can bring to the world. The more you grow, the more that should as well. Try to use that uniqueness. Figure out what it is, own it, believe in it, and develop it. And I think that's going to be not only create the life of your dreams, but it's going to change the world in its own unique way.
Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out Jeff Fenster on Sunday, and we will talk to you then.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper-conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.